Today's show is brought to you by Taplist.io, the digital beer menu system for homebrewers. With Taplist.io, you can create beautiful, professional quality TV menu board for your brews in minutes. You've probably seen these kinds of menus in bars and restaurants, and Taplist.io is the first pro-grade product to support homebrewers. Plug in a TV, pair the free app, and you're done. Taplist.io also has some sweet built-in integrations with Play-Doh Keg, Brewfather, and Brewer's Friend. We are no strangers to Taplist.io. We've been using it for years and have thoroughly enjoyed how easy it is for us to update all the beers on tap, whether it's at Todd's barn or at my pop's house. And I'm telling you, if Todd can figure out how to do this on his own, anybody can figure out how to do this on their own. So give it a try for free today on the web. Go to taplist.io. That's TAPLIST.io.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Forgetting specialty malt, crushing grains for an all-in-one, filtering wort before it goes into primary fermentation, and dispensing from a keg that's on its side. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 246. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Today, I'm joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com over there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President, Resident Chief Keg Washer of kegconnection.com. Right below me, Mr. Todd Burns. Gentlemen, welcome to the episode.
Hi, how are you? Hey.
Don't ask me how I'm doing.
How are you doing, Josh?
I'm doing great. I'm doing
good.
I'm doing real good. I feel fantastic, like health-wise, except I have a bout with plantar fasciitis now in my left foot. My wife thinks it might be related to the COVID, that nerve damage or something she read about. I refuse. I'm a borderline hypochondriac. I refused to go online and look up anything of my symptoms and stuff, because I'd feel something and I'd have my phone. I'd be like, I just got to look up. What is this feeling? And every time I do that, I go down that trail of like, oh, it's a brain tumor. Okay, I have a day to live. That's what this is. Obviously, not just a headache because I'm dehydrated. That wouldn't make sense. So with the foot pain and stuff, I'm just praying about it. I'm sitting here like, nah, it's gotta be plantar fasciitis. I've had it before many years ago, and sometimes I get flare-ups. That's what it has to be. So, but besides that, how are you doing, Mr. Burns? Well, let's start off with this small talk. Y'all, we're recording this early. I'm not publishing it early, but we're recording it early because you guys are heading off on another flight, and y'all are going to Denver for CBC. How exciting is that?
Yeah, I'm excited. It's been a long time since I've been to a trade show.
Yeah, I've never been to Denver, so it'll be a first time for me.
You've never been to Denver? I'm trying to think when last time. Oh gosh, the last time I went, Todd, was for the podcast in 2015. Remember we did that tour? We went to Boulder, Denver, and Fort Collins.
I remember.
Yeah, you went to New Belgium, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was very nice. It was a very, very nice trip.
It was a very nice trip. I thought you were going to say something, though, about me. You looked like...
Oh, I mean, Josh was there. But
yeah, see, I knew it. I
only said that because you said I thought I was going to say something about you.
This was the first... That trip he took me to the tri-state area was the first time I went on a trip with just me and Todd. And we get to we land, and we got a rental car because we were going to have to... oh, wait, pardon me.
We were late.
No, wait, I actually drove that trip.
Yeah, you were
That's
there,
what it
and I was
was.
late because my plane got
severely
delayed.
I drove a rental car. That's what it was. And then I picked him up from the airport. I almost got us killed at the airport. I don't know if you remember that, Todd, when I was merging into a lane. But the whole reason I bring this up, this is when I learned Todd doesn't share rooms with people. We get to the hotel the first night, and she was like, okay, 2 rooms. And I laughed like, no, it's just the 2 of us. And he's like, dude, I am not sharing a room with you.
I'm 54 years old. I don't like sharing rooms anymore.
I am personally glad that he doesn't do that.
I know.
I did that for many, many, many years.
Yeah,
I know, but it was just I was just like, well, first I was ecstatic. It's like, thank you so much, because I didn't want to share a room with a 40. At the time, you were what? And what were you in 2015? 49, I guess.
Yeah, and I was probably hadn't gotten my sleep apnea stuff yet,
No,
so I would
you
have
were-
snored really loud the entire night. It would have been terrible.
What?
I mean, it probably wouldn't have been that bad for me, but it would have been terrible.
I sleep
I
with
was kind
headphones.
of going that direction.
I sleep with headphones on. James is I've usually bunk with James, and you're a great roommate. You're super easy. You've the one who told me to go get the sleep apnea test, because you're like, hey Josh, last night you stopped breathing, and I was like, well,
for like 10 seconds. It was crazy.
And I took the test, and they're like, no, everything's within normal. I was like, okay. If my hypochondriaism, I was like, I'll just wake up brain dead or not wake up at all. But knock on wood, pray to God, it's all worked out so far. So yeah, CBC, that's going to be fun. Do they have a capacity limit? Do you know anything about that, Todd? Like, are you, or is it going to be similar to years past? Because this is the Brewers Association's first in-person event since COVID, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I have no idea. I haven't checked on any of that. I've been vaccinated for a while now. I don't really care. So
yeah. Right. I just meant though, like, I didn't know if because I've been twice with you to CBC events, and they're usually many, massive show floor, by the way.
Yeah,
massive.
I think it's going to be smaller. I mean, I don't know that. It's just anecdotal, but I think that it's going to be a smaller show. I know a lot of companies that I've talked to cancel their booths, so I don't know how big it'll be. It'll be interesting to see.
Right,
and I would imagine there'll be less participants, so it might be a great show to walk around and really get to talk to people that are extremely bored in their booth. I have had shows, I have had booths before where I could not come up for air. And I think you probably both remember that we went to the Brow in Germany, and I said to Stefan, oh my gosh, Stefan, this show's so slow. Wait till you come to the Craft Brewers show. You will not have time to even get a drink of water. You're so busy all day. And then they had it in DC, and he came, and it was just as slow as it could be.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember, because that year you wouldn't let me have chairs. And that was, so the whole time I'm like having to find something to lean on, because I'm just standing
still. I can't
still.
believe somebody working a booth would want to sit in a chair.
Hey, when we did the Brow, I was ecstatic when we got there, and they had chairs, they had tables.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
They weren't for you to sit on, though.
Oh, that's what you told me many a times. You're like, get up, those aren't for you.
No, it was for Gary.
Yeah,
it was for Gary.
Oh gosh. So listen, I know we need to move on to the questions, but I have to bring this up since you're talking about Denver. I got ready to really, my wife and I went outside. We had a guy show up. We had to look at something, and we were outside for we should have been out there 10 minutes, but he talked afterwards, and we sat and talked to him for a long time, and it was hot. I mean, hot. So when I came in, I said, you know what? I'm going to be in Denver tomorrow. I'm going to Google this and tell my wife how cool it's going to be. So, James, Saturday, the high in Denver. I can't even believe it. I have to look again to make sure I'm in the right place. The high in Denver is 96 degrees. And on Friday, it's 97 degrees.
So it's hotter than it'll be here.
I was going to say, that's hotter than here.
I had Stephenville up for some reason, which is real close to us. And it's going to be 1 degree hotter than it is in Texas.
Dude, right here, right now in San Marcos, it says it's 92. Tomorrow is going to be a high of 94. Yeah.
Heck, we got 90 degree weather all the way through next week through Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, so in Comanche it's 98 degrees. So it is 1 degree hotter in Comanche than it's going to be in Denver. That is so ridiculous.
I know that is wild. I thought you'd have to take like a flannel or a pullover or something for the evening.
Well, and I will say this: it does get down to 62 that evening.
Oh, okay.
So there's a really large range of temperature.
That's a big swing. My goodness.
Yeah.
It goes back into the 80s next week in Denver, but still,
of course. As soon as we leave, it's going to cool down.
It is going to cool down. All right. Hey, so getting on with the show. Before we get into the questions, I do have some listener feedback from our first ever voicemail guy, and I've had him on. We've had his voicemails on before. Marty from Omaha, becoming one of my favorite guys to leave voicemails. Every time I see it in my inbox, and Marty from Omaha, I'm like, okay, everyone else, sorry, y'all are going to have to go on another episode because Marty wrote in. So with that being said, it's time for listener feedback. I got to redo that one. I'm starting to really get annoyed by it, and Todd isn't annoyed enough by it. So I got to.
I like it. Listen to feedback. You want me to do it? I could do one for you.
All right, here it is from Marty from Omaha.
Hi, Josh. It's Marty from Omaha. Hey, I don't want you to discount alcoholic Mountain Dew because I'll tell you what, Mountain Dew and Jack Daniels is a fine drink. I challenge you to have some. Just mix it like a highball with a jigger or two of Jack Daniels in a nice glass with some Mountain Dew. You're going to enjoy it. Trust me. I've been drinking it for a long time.
Marty.
Good one. Bye, guys.
I think Marty had several before he
I'm enjoying it right now.
It sounded
good
like
for you, Marty.
So the episode I did by myself, I did like this craft beer news segment, and one of the things was about how Mountain Dew and Boston Beer are teaming up, James, to make
I saw that
hard Mountain Dew, and I made fun of it, and my inbox got flooded because, like Marty just said, apparently that's a very common old drink. Is you put Mountain Dew and Jack, and boom, you're gonna have a great night. I'm like, am I though? Because I'll do Jack and Coke like on a flight because I'm terrified of flying. I'll pop a Z-Quil and chug a couple of Jack and Coke, sure. But have you either one of you ever had Mountain Dew with an alcoholic, with a spirit or with a liquor?
No. I am not a Mountain Dew fan.
Me neither. Well, I was when I was like 14.
I don't want anything with Mountain Dew.
Yeah. I also got to tell people too, because that episode I mentioned, like, I just can't see a person like my pop at the beach going, hey son, pass me an alcoholic Mountain Dew. And then my dad listened to the episode and he texts me, he goes, what? I like Mountain Dew. I was like, who are you? Who are you, man? But anyways, Marty, thank you so much for.
So maybe we have to try one though, Josh.
Yeah,
next time
definitely.
you come up, grab a Mountain Dew, and what did he mix it with?
Jack is what he said. Yeah.
I have some Jack Daniels here. That's the only way we'd ever use it. So get you some Mountain Dew and I have Jack Black, I think.
Well, I'm not coming up until after this is published. So Marty, let us know if Jack Black is acceptable, not the actor, the beverage for this.
I would think you'd want to use green with that unless they make something cheaper. But
is that bottom shelf? Because that's where my people shop. We shop at the bottom shelf.
No, Jack Black's fairly. I mean, it's a fairly expensive whiskey. Not very super expensive. It's more than the green bottle.
Yeah.
Than the green label. But I would think maybe low end Jim Beam would mix better with Mountain Dew.
Or what about Seagram's? I mean, because
or maybe some old tennis shoe.
That's not very nice. Listen, Marty's not the only one. I can forward you. I have emails to forward you. Some that are calling me an idiot for certain things, and then other people telling me Mountain Dew and liquor is going to be the best invention since sliced bread. So I'll forward this to you. But anyways, thank you so much, Marty, for submitting that listener feedback. We've got 4 questions for y'all this week. The first one came from our buddy Seb, who texted into our hotline at 325-305-6107. Seb wasn't as brave as Marty. Marty will pick up the phone and leave a voicemail, but Seb just texted us, and he wrote, I recall Todd giving Joshua hell himself for forgetting to add the specialty malt to the pale ale he was brewing. What was that forgotten malt? Besides color, did the omission make it a different beer from the other identical pale ales you guys made? That's a great question because I don't have notes on that brew day. So James, what was it just caramel?
It was 40 ale. It was 40, a pound and a half of 40 ale. So it's mainly just for color because we're talking about over 30 pounds of malt. So that 40 ale, a pound and a half was color. It wouldn't contribute a lot to flavor.
I think I threw it away the other day because I was cleaning out the fridge.
You threw out the beer I brewed?
Yeah, I may have said some choice words about you as I was throwing it in there.
But you say that anyway, like when you're not doing that. So that's what I brought Seb's question.
No. I poured out. I threw away the crushed grain that had been sitting there.
I thought you meant you dumped the keg. Like, oh, you mean you found the crushed grains again, and you're like, this idiot. He didn't use them, and now they're bad. No one can use them, and finally throw them away.
Exactly.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm no stranger to that. My ears were burning all day yesterday. That must have been it. So you wouldn't argue, and I don't even mean to like dig into semantics. It did not alter the beer enough taste wise for their
right.
Okay. What kind of case would a specialty malt might do that, or the omission of? Like,
if it's a really dark roasted malt, something that would impact flavor, or if it was a considerable amount of malt percentage wise to the base, where it would make, it would definitely make a difference in the way it tastes and color. But because it's 40 ale, that's a very lightly roasted malt, and it was a very small percentage. It was less than 10. It was less than 10% of the malt because it was 30 pounds of pale malt and then a pound and a half of 40 ale.
Yeah, that's what. I was going to say the bag was that big, so I don't know how much it weighed.
I don't even know how I missed it. I mean, Todd.
Well, I did ask you to look again, and
that's what it was.
I think we've covered this.
That is what it was. That you forgot to tell me. Yeah.
I think if you left a pound and a half of chocolate malt out of a recipe, you could tell the difference, right? So
you've read my mind because I was about to ask, if I left out maybe some of the specialty when I'm doing a breakfast stout clone, I'd probably notice it a little bit more than on our pale ale recipe.
Yeah, and we I don't know that we would have noticed it that much anyway, because we did those 6 different recipes, and I don't know what I don't know how much it would have been the hops and the different things, or I don't know. I don't think I could. I don't know that I could taste that. I think it's mainly just for color. I mean, I'm sure you could taste it somewhat if you put them both side by side and tasted them. Maybe you could taste a little difference, but I don't know. I think it's more for color.
I really wish in hindsight.
I agree.
Yeah, I really wish in hindsight I would have seen that I missed the malt, the specialty grains, hid them. And then when we were doing the video and you'd be like, Josh, yours is a lot more pale. Wow. How'd you do that? Oh, when I scalded my hand during the brew day, I think that really affected the color of the pale or I don't know. It would have just
some of your pale skin on there.
Yeah. I got some of my pale skin to get into there. Yeah. Cause I'm no stranger of hiding things from you. So that would have been a much more entertaining. And then I could have said, actually, I forgot to add that caramel 40 L, what's the L for? Levy bond, right? Trying to think what the L is for. Yeah. Anyway, so thank you so much, Seb, for some. I know that was short and sweet, but I had to put it in there just because it's always nice to bring up when I mess up. So, reminder, if and when we take your question on a future episode, we do give you a $25 gift card to keggconnection.com. Moving on to question number 2, came from our buddy Arnold W., who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Arnold wrote, "Hi guys, I love the podcast and all the good information you have on the website. I'm the proud owner of a new Anvil Foundry. My question is about what type of crush my grains need to be. I've heard from a friend that double crushing is best for a system like my Foundry. I want to make sure that I don't mess anything up, especially my new equipment. Hope you can steer me in the right direction." Now, this is a great question because we had an oopsie once on an all-in-one on the Solo, where we double crushed, we double milled for that recipe. And the basket on the prototype was already kind of messed up. So the grains got all in there and messed stuff up, and it was a bad day. Normally, though, on a brew in a, all-in-ones are also those are the same as brew in a bag, right? Or basket. The B is basket at that point.
Right.
So
the rule of, here's what I would say about crush if it's going to have recirculation, you need to make sure and do not do a double crush or a fine crush. That will definitely affect circulation. You could have a stuck mash, all kinds of problems. So avoid that if you're going to have circulation in your all-in-one.
Do people ever use a bag on an all-in-one? Like where they put the bag in the basket, then you could double crush. Right? I mean, then you could double mill your grains if you were using a bag. I mean, that's the only time I know.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only time I know for sure this is when you want to double mill is because I'm doing a brew in a bag. Right.
Right. Yeah. Because if you're not doing recirculation, as y'all remember my Roggenbier episode, it quit circulating. So when you have an all-in-one, your grains in a basket, so it's filtering through the basket and hitting the element at the bottom of because the elements fuse to the bottom of the all-in-one. So if you do not have constant, if you don't keep that element or the bottom of that all-in-one covered with wort, and it goes dry, it'll cook the element and it'll scorch the wort, ruin the batch, and possibly pop the element as well. You generally on the Grainfather I ran into, it just tripped the breaker. But I've heard horror stories that it went dry and it cooked the element. And with the way the all-in-ones are designed, guess what? If you break the element in that, you have to buy a whole new machine because it's spot welded to the bottom of the pot.
Yes.
So it's something you
on the
really
foundry specifically, and like foundry Grainfather. Yeah, the Solo, which it is an all-in-one, but it's built different. You can replace that, and I know that because my pop and I,
on
busted
the
one
spike.
The spike on the Solo, we popped it bad because it wasn't covered in wort, and we were like, what is going on with this circulation? And all of a sudden you hear. Like, oh God. And, my dad's still intent on getting a good brew day on that prototype thing. But
I remember you called me that day and you were pretty upset about the fact that it
we're dumping stuff into the foundry actually. Cause we had to finish the brew day. We had to scale down to a 5-gallon recipe. So actually, we may have been trying to do a 5-gallon in the Solo, and that was when Todd. That was when Todd gave me grief. He's like, "Why are you using that for a 5-gallon recipe? That makes no sense." I'm like, well, things I do. Well, nothing I do makes sense, man. It's been almost 14 years. You should know that. Nothing I do makes sense.
Oh, we all don't do things that make sense.
Yeah. One of our most popular YouTube videos is your overview of the all-in-ones, and it's almost 3 years old now.
Yeah,
and
we need to do an updated one.
We do, but the mash and boil in that video was before they had a pump, and now you had rigged it for recirculation. But let's hypothetically speaking, you have the version that did not have recirculation. In that case, would you then double mill in just that basket that it has, or would you stick to standard milling for your grains?
I would still probably stick to standard milling and just stir it, because the way the perforations are at the bottom of that basket, if you double mill, there is a chance that you might have some grains or hulls or husks get underneath the basket and probably cook in the element. Anything that might contribute to an off flavor, I would stay away from. So if you're going to double mill and you do not have circulation, you probably would want to put a bag in it. And then you could make the argument to ditch the basket altogether. But
at that point, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will
say, also there's a heating element at the bottom. So I don't know how it would do as far as if you got a nylon bag. I don't know if it would cook it. There's just too many variables there to answer that correctly.
You're right. There are a ton of variables. I say
don't double mill it.
Right. Well, to be safe, unless you're using a bag. If you happen to be using a bag,
but we're not going to use a bag. I'm
going to forward you the emails, man. People swear that brewing a bag is the best way, and not only that, a lot of people are telling me they squeeze the bag. I'm sorry for doing the creepy.
Yeah, we've heard that several. We talked to y'all both. Remember the gentleman that makes the bags for brewing the bag, and he swears by squeezing the bag's not going to affect anything.
But on the all-in-one, or are you talking about a traditional?
Oh no, any brewing a bag. I mean, anybody that bags. A lot of people say no. I squeeze every time.
No, I realize that, but I'm talking about specifically in an all-in-one system. Most people don't use a bag.
Oh, correct.
Basket that comes with it.
Sorry, yes.
If they use the basket that comes with it, you shouldn't double mill it. You should single
it. I agree.
Okay.
I agree. Your chances of success are far greater than if you play around with trying to push efficiency, which would be the only reason why you would want to double mill. is to get a better, produce higher gravity.
Right. Exactly. Getting more sugars out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Arnold, if your buddy who told you that double crushing is best for the foundry has a different opinion, email tburns@keggconnection.com telling him exactly why he should be double milling on his Anvil Foundry. We have the original version of the foundry. Like my dad still has that at the house. I need to bring it back to the office. It has the little controller at the bottom. That's the only difference. They moved it to the top because that makes much more sense, like the Grainfather, so you can adjust things standing and not having to get down. But I'll just say my dad has loved using the foundry. When we do 5-gallon batches, it does make life easier. Blickman did a good job on that. And there's still, I say this every episode, but like we are living in the best time ever because there's such solid options for all-in-ones. The Grainfather still is cream of the crop in my eyes. Like they've got it, and the features on it, right? The bells and the whistles are what get me.
Yeah,
like,
the Wi-Fi to your app on your phone, and you can control it from your phone. Yeah. It's really cool
if you're gonna do all in one. But here comes I could see it on Todd's face. Like, why would you limit yourself to 5-gallon batches? I agree, Mr. Burns. I'm a believer now in the Herms setup. I've become a Herms believer. I need to this. Chris.
Well, no, I mean, but I think a lot of people want to brew 5-gallon batches. They don't have two other friends that brew that you trade around with. So
yeah, it's just,
we like it because of you get more beer. It takes the same amount of time, and we get to trade around and have different kinds of beer.
Yeah. I mean, we all, all of us, if it was just us drinking the beer, I don't think any of us would want to do 15-gallon batches,
Well, Todd would. Look at him.
Yeah, definitely would.
Well, but Todd's a different cat because James, you and I host people at our homes never a year. Todd has people at his house every freaking day, it seems like.
Oh, that's true.
We had what, between all those kegs, how many kegs do you think I had here?
Oh gosh,
2 beers on tap right now out of 7 that we had. And I know there's some full kegs in there that I could put in there, but I mean, we have drank a lot of beer. Yeah,
a lot.
And I haven't brewed in way too long.
It's
me either. Ever since I brewed.
Same here. Again, it's that stereotypical why brew in the heat. Well, y'all have electric systems. There's no reason you can't brew.
I'm working on this huge project for my mother-in-law's apartment / garage, and
it is a huge project.
I've been working on it every weekend. As soon as it's done, I'm brewing a big old batch of something.
I've been worried about you, man, because you forget you're in your 50s and you're out there like you're trying to one up your pop. It's 100-degree, not quite 100-degree, but mid-90s, humid as can be, and Todd's out there, working with no air conditioning in this attic space and running electrical light.
Yeah, I'll have to get you. I should do a video of me working out there in my boxers with nothing else on.
No.
It got so hot that I was in a pair of little knit shorts that you would wear to the gym, and that's the only thing I had on working all day. I worked 14 hours out there one day.
I believe you. I really do, because I helped you for 90 minutes tops running some of that electrical line, and we were outside the whole time, and I was complaining the whole time, James. I was like, so are we, like, is this it? This is all we're doing, right? I'm done after this. But Todd was like, shut up, go get a beer or something. Why are you whining? I was like, because I thought you'd let me stop working if I whined loud enough. But anyways, Arnold, thank you so much for submitting your question. And for real, if anybody who has feedback on anything, I really love the comment section of our YouTube page. We did a lot of great feedback from people, or you can always email me if you want me to. I do draw for the feedback section from our YouTube comments as well. So don't feel like you have to also direct message it to me or email. If you just put it in the YouTube comments, I will reach out to you through YouTube and say, hey, I'm going to use this in a future episode. Here's a $25 gift card, because we do that as well. So moving on to questions.
James left. What are we going to do now?
I'm going to ask a question. Here's another question, and it's about what's your favorite beer? Oh, I love beer. He's coming back. He can hear us. He has the headphones.
Oh, I know he can. Yeah, so I have to tell you one other thing. I think you'll really appreciate this, Josh. When I was working out there in just my little shorts, my dad drove up and came in the garage, and he looked. I was on a ladder. He looked up and goes, "Oh my God, son, you need to lose like 300 pounds."
I thought he was going to say, I've always known you're crazy, but now I see you're nuts. was my favorite Austin Powers joke. I think that was from Goldmember. That movie killed me. I was in high school when I saw that in theaters. But anyway, moving on.
Gosh, we're old, Todd.
Yeah. I was like a junior in high school when Goldmember came out.
I was 40 when I saw it.
I was 40.
Yeah, I think I'd already had my first divorce by then.
Oh man,
gosh, that sounded bad, didn't it?
Oh, dude, my wife, she doesn't listen to the show. I am so happy she didn't divorce me during COVID. Not because I got COVID, because I am a baby when I am sick. And I was just like, oh, babe, but if you don't help me, I'm dying. Oh, and she's, that lady.
God, I'm glad I wasn't there.
Dude, she's a saint. But anyway, moving on to question number 3 was a text message as well from our buddy Troy P. The hotline is, to remind you, 325-305-6107. Troy wrote in saying, I just had a thought. What if I ran my wort through a filter as I'm transferring it from kettle to vessel? Would it help in a significant way, or would it be a waste of time? Is this the dumbest thing you've read today? T, no, it's not. And it's not. I've sent emails to Todd, so I'm sure it's not the dumbest thing he's heard today. I question if Troy had some of those alcoholic Mountain Dew Jack combos when he wrote this into us, maybe. But no, James, you're holding it up in your hands. You filter every beer, but you don't filter between post boil and fermentation. You filter from fermentation to keg.
Yeah, when the beer's done and you're fixing to keg it, this is what I use. So I wouldn't worry about it until you do get ready to keg, because this is the simplest way to do it, and it's fairly cheap.
Oh, and I wonder too if he used like your filtering setup from post boil into the fermenter, would the heat of it, I know you have to bring it down before you transfer, would that possibly mess up the filtration part of it? Because anytime you're dealing with some kind of fiber media, I don't know. I couldn't answer that question. I've never done it. I don't think I'd ever attempt to, mainly because why would you want to filter something that's going to have trub in it, and the yeast is going to create another issue to where you'll have to filter it again, or at least let it condition. So it's not as big a deal pre-fermentation. I think in my experience, I'm sure people are going to give me hell about it, but don't worry about anything until after fermentation. You can always do a secondary. I know Todd does that a lot. And move it into another fermenter. That'll clarify it. If you don't even want to mess with that, you can do this. These filters are on Amazon. This is a 1 micron, and you can get these if you want to buy enough in bulk, you can get these as less than $1 a piece. And the filter housing assembly is, I think I paid $20 for this. I've linked to it before. And I forget which episode it was, because your filtering system is what a ton of people are just interested in, because clear beer, a lot of people who listen to our show, as well as ourselves, are fans of bright beer. They look good. I think
it looks delicious. I mean, it looks like it's something that you would want to drink.
Exactly. Where we've joked before, the old days of home brewing, you knew it was home brewed because there was some floaties that got stuck in your teeth, and it had a little bit of a cardboard taste. Like, oh, that homebrew taste. Yeah, you made it.
Yeah.
Now you go to Todd's barn, any given beer y'all brewed that's on tap there, and Todd gets people going like, y'all brewed this. Are you sure? You really brewed this?
Right.
So, I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah. People say that all the time. You didn't really brew this.
Yeah. People taste with their eyes just as much as they do their taste buds. And if you have a good bright beer with a good protein, good head, all that's the cool thing about home brewing is you can create all that in your recipe and your brewing steps. And something like this, you're going to have some loss. You're going to lose a couple quarts of wort or beer when you do use this, but it is effective. It works well. No floaties when you do something like this.
And to reemphasize your point, because the only thing I had to offer this question was, if you do it pre-fermentation, you're going to have to do it again. Because of the yeast cake. Like, that was what was going on in my brain. Like, it's not a dumb question, because you don't want, I'm with you, Troy. I don't want stuff I would love, best case scenario, to be able to just stick my auto siphon, because that's what my dad and I still use, and if at the very bottom, not rack it, like not have to clip it or anything at all, just stick it at the bottom and let it go to town, and not have to hold it in the right position. And my dad going, okay, lean it a little, you're good there, and you can come down a little. No, look in the tube. Oh, stop, you know. Like I would love to be able to avoid doing that, but thankfully, I've relaxed a little and not have to, and just don't worry about it. And when we're transferring to the keg is when
that's when you don't want to move anything over.
Right. Yeah. That's when I start not worrying, but that's when I care more about what's getting into there, because I don't want. I hate, you know, when we dry hopped in a keg that one time without a bag, I still am tasting the hops between my teeth. I don't.
Made a mess, didn't it?
It made a mess.
I think I see a piece of.
Yeah, look.
Smile again. Yep, there it is. Right there.
My mustache is going into my mouth. My wife hates it. I think filtering is something that I'd like to try with my pop. Todd, you've never filtered either, have you?
I have, but I usually just secondary and really let it sit a while and get super clear, and then you don't really need to filter at that point.
And that's the big thing too, where tons of people, especially online, and homebrew talk, I remember seeing threads of a big debate between secondary or not. And I don't think it's laziness. I just think a lot of people don't do secondary anymore, where Todd produces very clear beer because you have time and patience, and you don't mind the clarification that goes on in a secondary, where you can take it from your primary through a filter and boom, also have clear beer results.
And I'll add this too. If you are working with just regular carboys or plastic buckets and you're like, well, James, I don't have a pump. I don't have a conical. I can't move it with CO2. You actually can. You just need an extra keg. So what I would do is transfer into a keg and then make sure your dip tube, well, it doesn't really matter because you're running it through a filter. Then what you do is you just run this in between your first keg into your second keg, liquid line, liquid post, I should say, because you want to fill from the bottom up, and then you can move it with CO2 from one keg to another, and then boom, you got filtered beer.
Yes, liquid, because if you do the gas, you're gonna splash, and then you are gonna have that cardboard taste, and you'll be like, "What the crap did I do wrong?" I've splashed before.
Yeah, you just want to have two liquid ball lock, and then connect them to each end of the hose, and then you've got your gas into the keg, pushing it through one keg into another through the liquid side. So it fills from the bottom up, just like a production brewery does.
Or you could be like Todd, old man yelling at clouds, going, this filtering thing's just use a secondary.
Yeah. I don't know why you'll filter. I like.
I don't because I don't have.
I'm very, very old and set in my ways, and I just don't believe in it.
Yeah.
So.
And if you purge the secondary, the other keg, the final keg with CO2, then you don't have to worry about any kind of oxidation.
Yeah.
It's a very safe thing to do.
I'm totally kidding. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I think it's great to filter. I like to say I secondary because I have lots of fridges and I have lots of space to do it in, but I haven't always. I mean, I think filtering is a great way to do it.
When you also use secondary as well, because not every beer is coming out of your conical because of how often. Sometimes you brew so much, you've got carboys and buckets, and like you said, every space you have that's temperature controlled fridge is taken up with a bucket or a carboy, or you have the rooms there in the barn full, so I'm with you where we use the Genesis. I like the secondary out of the Genesis just because most of the time when we're brewing, we have the time to do it, and doing it in a clear carboy and have, cold conditioning, letting it clarify more. You've seen the protein drop and all that. It's a good thing. But again, in the other breath, it's like, or I can just go to a keg right now and have really bright beer. And okay. And like James said, it is super easy to do. I just haven't implemented it yet, but James' setup is very affordable. And it's
easy to do. It's simple. It's cheap. That's the key phrase.
That's what we care about on this show is, what was the nicer word for cheap? It's frugal. It's for the frugal.
Frugal.
Man. For the frugal man or woman. So anyways, Troy, thank you so much for submitting your question. We've got one final question for you guys this week. Came from Christopher S., who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Christopher wrote, I'm wanting to take a smaller 2.5 gallon keg to a picnic. My idea is to use a small cooler I already own and lay the keg inside of it. The concern I have is that the keg will be on its side in order to have it fit in the cooler. Will this be bad when I'm tapping from the keg? If you have other solutions, I don't mind spending some money because this will probably be used a lot. Thank you. I don't think that's a good idea, but
James has a solution for this. Let James answer this one.
Well, here's the thing: is if first of all, we just go back to the previous question. If you're filtering and you filter your beer into that 2.5 gallon keg, if you want to chill it down and put it on its side in the fridge, there's no problem with that. The problem is if you don't filter and you put it in that 2.5 gallon keg, you're going to have trubs settle down to the bottom. So ideally, with homebrew keg beer, you don't want to disturb the keg, because what happens is inevitably you're still going to have trub or yeast particles in that beer. You want them to settle down to the bottom of the keg and not be disturbed. And anybody that's had homebrew that's moved kegs around in their kegerator noticed it was clear and now it's cloudy because you disturbed the trub that was there at the bottom of the keg. Now, that being said, if you want to fix the problem of setting it on its side, you can actually take and on the liquid line, that's a tube that goes down to the bottom of the keg. And it's a hard tube, stainless steel tube goes down the bottom. What I did was I took a piece of silicone hose and I put a little a heavy stainless steel fitting on the end. Doesn't really matter what it is, but you want to have it heavy enough. We call it a clunk. We want the hose to follow whatever profile the keg is in. So if you have a clunk on the end of that hose, you'll have to put a shorter tube, and then you're going to clamp that hose to the shorter tube on the inside. And you can get in there and do that. Then you can dispense on its side, and it'll pick up whether it's like an aircraft fuel tank. Doesn't matter what position it's in, that clunk is going to orient the hose to the bottom.
Like a floating dip tube, right?
Yeah. And you could do it with a floating dip tube.
Or a non-floating dip tube.
Or not, right. Because this is just...
this one
pardon me, it's the opposite. It's a sinking dip tube. Yeah, but it's following the liquid.
Right. And they do make floating dip tubes, but they're more upright and float. They're designed to float in a certain direction. So if you've got it on its side, you've got to figure out, make sure that floating dip tube floats.
Right.
The orientation is correct. The easiest thing to do is just put a heavy stainless steel fitting. What I used is we have soda adapters for like bag in the box soda valves. They have a head, and they're stainless steel fittings that fit in the backside of the coupler for the soda valve. And those are kind of heavy. And I just put one of those on there. It makes it heavy, but you can use a threaded fitting with a 1/4-inch barb, and it's heavy enough that it'll position the hose at the bottom wherever it's on its side or straight up.
And your solution, go ahead and finish it. Sorry.
No, I was going to say is as long as you make sure you have something heavy on the end of that hose, it's going to fall where it's at and it'll pick up.
I'll say your solution solved the problem I was going to say when I said I don't think it's a good idea, because I was thinking non-modified liquid dip tube. Eventually, you have liquid underneath it, or it's not able to get everything out because of the volume, how the liquid is, if it's coming to the front of the keg too much or whatever, you're like, oh, we're already out. No, you're not. It's just the keg is silent.
Right.
You are the MacGyver of homebrewers, by the way. This is blowing my mind, because I was like, what if I just take jockey bots?
Well, I mean, there's an even more simpler issue to fix that if you want to do it. Take the dip tube out, cut a 1/2 inch off of it, and then bend it to fit what position you want to keep it in. If you're always going to keep it in the fridge a certain position, draw arrows. You want the dip tube bent down to the position where you want it in. I know people that their wife won't let them have a kegerator in the house. So I have a friend that when it ended up, and Todd, you met Andrew, he got 2.5 gallon keg, and then we bent the dip tube to where he could slide it into his fridge he's got a fridge in the laundry room, and he can slide it in there. He used one of those mini regulators with CO2 cylinder and a squeeze valve. And that's what he used for years until he was able to get a full blown kegerator. But he said it worked great. All we did was just bend the hole. I cut the tube off a little on the end, and I bent it where it needed to be in relation to the keg and the position in the fridge. That worked too.
He finally got his kegerator after the first divorce.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, same wife when he got his kegerator?
She's great. Esmelda, he loves Coles. That's his favorite kit to do. He's got a grandfather, and he's my mailman, and he mentioned the other day that we need to brew that beer.
I agree. Y'all do need to brew that beer. I need to brew a Kolsch.
So James, I have a confession.
Mm-hmm.
That the kegerator you're talking about, I used it upright, and I don't know what happened, but it must have gotten a hole somewhere or a clamp came loose. But all it would do is shoot out foam.
Yeah.
It worked great for you. I kind of think maybe you figured out that I was stealing your keg and you sabotaged it.
No.
That's the only thing I could think of. I had to rip all that out of there and cut a dip tube down and put a new dip tube in. So
I remember you mentioning that.
So
if it's foam, there's a break in the line inside somewhere causing that.
I screwed up your Coast keg, and I apologize.
Oh no, you can put one together easy. I mean, it doesn't take long at all.
Your definition of easy is different than mine, because you're like, oh, here's a quick fix. I mean, you work like an F1 crew, sure. But me, on the other hand, like I watched Todd's Make a Jockey Bots video in under 7 minutes, and 45 minutes later, I'm like, I don't know if this is this a bit or is this what is this? Like I can't even
we assume you know what a drill is when we make that video. Or a hole saw. Hole saw is a big word, right?
Then I had to call a therapist to deal with the PTSD from that brought up from my dad yelling at me, "That's not what a crescent wrench is, you idiot!" Little 5-year-old me, oh, here's a screwdriver. That's the crescent wrench. But anyway, no, he was a good dad. He was a great dad. To wrap up Christopher's question, Chris, your advice, James, I think is pertinent to him because he can use what he already has to do.
Sure, yeah, absolutely, yep.
And that is what I like about your solutions. Is it's like, hey, you already have this stuff. Here's a little bit of elbow grease you're going to need to put into it, but boom, now you've got a solution for the long haul. If you want to spend a little bit of money, he could do a Jockey Bots kind of implementation, but you could get away with just using what he has and not spending any money at all.
That's correct.
Just his time, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be much to, even if you wanted to cut the tube and bend it. You could always bend it back where you wanted it to be. That would be the quickest fix. But if you're going to it depends on how you're serving it. If you're gonna just store it to cool it down sideways in the fridge, yes, you can do that. We talked about that earlier. You'd have a trub issue to deal with, and it could get kind of cloudy depending on how clean and clear the beer is that goes into the keg. That being said, if you want to serve on its side, you can orient the dip tube to pull the beer wherever it needs to be pulled off on the keg, whether it be on the side or in the bottom.
You know what else you could do? I just thought about this. If you put the I like the idea of the dip tube going down. And by the way, we have lots of used dip tubes. You can buy long dip tubes to cut down fairly inexpensively. So anyway, if you could have the dip tube going down and then just put something in the front of the keg to slightly elevate it so that it's going downhill and it's on the bottom, and then you get almost all the beer out that way.
Sure. Yeah. You could put the dip tube getting right on the seam of the keg where the bottom meets the side, and then just take a piece of duct tape and a piece of heavy foam and put it on the handle. I always put the handle down because I know handle down, dip tube is down, and then you can serve it that way. The handle's not going to give you an incline, but at least you know the orientation. So if it's a single handle keg, point the handle down, take you a piece of foam, like heavy foam you get in something you buy from Amazon, and just cut it and taper it to make it tilt. Like Todd said, tilt a little enough to where you can get almost everything out of that keg.
This is, like I said, it's just blowing my mind because I thought Todd was going to say, just get a Jockey Bots, dude, and that's it. But, because they're not that expensive at all to get a Jockey Bots solution. But I like this. I like that. Christopher, send us photos of whatever you decide to do, so I can put it on. I can either retroactively put it in the show notes or make a new post or something, because that is cool. And I forgot that you had that solution. It's actually there at Todd's house, isn't it?
I just talked about screwing it up.
No, I know, but I'm saying you still have it there. You didn't take it back to the office. Sometimes you screw stuff up and you take it back to the office and you leave it in the brew room. And then when someone
it has beer in it. I had a beer out of it last night. I got it to flow again last week when I cut the dip tube down and put a new one in.
That's the ones that we got the keg from Teddy's.
Yeah.
Right.
From Teddy's.
Okay.
So
right
I
on.
had some of that last night because I just fixed that keg. It's been sitting in there with beer forever, and I never could get it to pour. So
you know what? We still have some of Teddy's on tap.
It poured
my
fine
dad's.
in the beginning. I don't know what happened. Something got loose in there.
Yeah.
About halfway through the keg.
I forgot my dad still has Teddy's Kolsch on tap over there. I gotta head over there. I actually, after my beach trip, I didn't have beer for pretty much the entire month of August. Before COVID,
I wouldn't have either if I had COVID.
I was losing. Well, before I got COVID, I was losing weight. I was trying to. I was losing weight to spite my wife. Is how it started. She made some comment at the coast like, "Oh, you're getting a little fluffy," and I was like, "Okay, you did this. I'm going to drop 20 pounds in 2 weeks. You watch. I'll do it. I'll kill myself." But
I did notice you after staying home with the COVID. You have put a little weight on.
How dare you? How dare you? I lost. Well, I'm actually trying to put on a little bit of weight because I didn't want to. I'm having atrophy of muscles in my arm. I can tell, and that's not the weight I wanted to lose. I wanted to lose belly fat, but anyway, I'm totally digressing.
Do I seem skinnier to you from working outside so much?
You look thin.
I'm sure I'll exercise and not drink too much beer over the next 4 days in Denver. So that'll be good.
That's right. Oh, you know what though? Kidding aside, when you go on trips, it's hard to keep up with you because of how much you want to walk everywhere and how fast you walk. I don't feel for you. I mean, I do feel for you, James, because even though you got that longer stride, it still seems difficult for us.
I still have a hard time keeping up with me.
Yeah, no. It's really difficult. But anyways, Christopher, thanks so much for submitting the question. Guys, that wraps it up. I really do appreciate y'all doing this a couple days early before y'all head out. I'm looking forward to next week's episode where we can do a recap of CBC because I'm really interested in, y'all going and walking the floor. And y'all aren't going to do any of the sessions, though. Y'all are mainly going to walk and have meetings, right? I mean, just...
Yeah. We can't do the sessions. We didn't sign up for that part, which they're all, how to operate a brewery business, and we don't have a brewery business, so yeah.
Yet, don't be so short-sighted.
I'm not doing that.
Okay. Yeah. All right, that'll be...
Yeah, you remember what Todd had told his banker?
Yeah. I do. Yeah. Oh, I do. So guys, anyways, I appreciate y'all's time, and I will see y'all for next week's episode.
All right, see ya.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question that you would like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. Again, you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you so much to our show sponsor, Tap List IO, the best option for professionally displaying your tap list menu at home. Go try it out for free right now at taplist.io, and you can even see what we have on tap by checking out the link in our show notes. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.